So, Laura, this is it. This is a
Yes,
moment that we have been waiting for quite
yes, it
some
is.
time.
I know. Why don't we start by introducing ourselves?
Sure. So, my name is Laurent Van Haffel. I've made my career the past 25 years in financial services. I worked for various companies. One of them was a fintech startup where we helped the largest banks in the world changing the way they were managing their payment using at the time already some machine learning technology. And then here we are. I'm one of the co-founder of OpenFinity. How about you, Laura?
Laura Heritage. I'm the other co-founder of OpenFinity. I have been in the application and integration middleware space for over 20 plus years across industry, but the last 5 or so years, I've been focused in financial services, helping establish open banking strategies worldwide. Most recently, down in Brazil, I was there at the open banking launch down there, and coming here where it's more market driven. Well, it has been more market driven. We're all anxiously awaiting the 1033 ruling and so forth. But yeah, super excited about OpenFinity. Why don't we start off, Laurent, with you basically giving us explaining how you actually came up with the idea for OpenFinity.
Sure. So back in October 22, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, CFPB in the US, made a big announcement at Money 2020. And basically, they said that they will come up with a regulation using the so-called Dodd-Frank 1033 ruling, which is open banking. And last year, in October, they published their final ruling for the final review, and the market expects to get this into the law of the land in October of this year. So you and I, we have spent the past 2 years and more evangelizing the market here in the US and Canada, and you even, abroad in other countries. And so what, I found after speaking with hundreds of banks and credit union that they have a lot of questions about, what's going to happen, what is open banking exactly, why open banking, what's the business case, and there was no single place for the professional in the industry to turn and ask questions to their own peers. And so OpenFinity as a community was born from that idea, a single place, a single destination where the professional in the financial services ecosystem could turn to, network with their peers, collaborate, ask questions, and learn so that they can get ready to embrace open banking. So that's how OpenFinity was born. And so, Laura, why did you decide to join me and as a co-founder?
Well, like you, I got asked all those questions and see a huge opportunity in open finance, not just from a technology perspective, because all of you know me know I'm a very passionate technologist, but the opportunity there is for the financial services industry to be completely transformed and have a huge impact on financial services organizations and consumers like yourself and myself and everybody on this call. I also believe in the potential for open banking and open finance to basically democratize financial services, making them more available and efficient and tailored to consumers' specific business needs and businesses tailoring to businesses alike. Um, like I said, and for those that know me, I'm extremely passionate about technology. I love to share what I have learned with others. And most importantly, I love to innovate. And what is going on in the financial services market right now? I mean, open banking, open finance is here now today. Yes, it was regulation driven in some regions, but in North America specifically, it is right now market driven, and there's so much potential for innovation and opportunity that I want to help drive that and share that with folks. And so with my passion for the technology, for the opportunity, for innovation, and being able to share it. When you asked me and proposed this idea, it was basically my dream job. With that, Laurent, why don't you share with everybody that's here to learn about OpenFinity? Give us the elevator pitch on what value will bring to the community.
Sure. So basically, OpenFinity wants to be the premier destination for open finance, open banking, a place where the professionals in the financial services ecosystem can go, network, collaborate, ask questions, but also learn. And so we want to offer that collaboration platform. We are going to use Slack, and you can join OpenFinity now and join the others on Slack. And but also we want to offer courses so that this community can learn from the best. And we'll talk about some of the courses that we're going to offer, and some of them that we are partnering with. So some of them will be around API for financial services. Some will be more about the business case for open banking. But we want to go a little bit beyond the boundaries of just open finance or open banking. So we're partnering with one of the leader in the artificial intelligence space to offer a course on AI for financial services. We are working with one of the leader in the meditation and leadership. Why not becoming a better leader in financial services? So we want to offer these kind of courses, also educational webinar and a repository of asset that the community can turn to, and learn more about this formidable opportunity that is open banking. And by the way, open banking is not just for the banks or the credit union. It also concerns all of us as a consumer. And a lot of times people ask me, what is open banking? And people don't realize that when they use Venmo, many of you have kids that can use Venmo, then they enter their username and password. That's insane. What do you think is going to happen next? All right, for their checking account, they're entering their username and password. So there's a lot of good things that are coming up with this regulation we'll talk about that's going to make those exchanges much more secure, but there's going to be a lot of good things as well for us as a consumer. So that's the reason for behind OpenFinity and what this is about. So Laura, what can you tell us a little bit more about those courses that you have developed and helping to partner with?
Great. So these courses we've carefully curated, got the best of breed from the industry, and we've built a course called Open Banking Essentials. Now, one of the biggest things about OpenFinity, it is community driven, right? So what you, the community, your participation in Slack and sharing will help drive what we produce. This content that we produce is not from a vendor pushing content on you. This content that we've produced is what we've learned and asked from the community. And in fact, I'd like to take this moment in time to thank all of those that when we started, Laurent and I started doing research, we reached out to those in the community and we bent your ear, asked for advice. And I want to thank all of you that contributed, and we greatly appreciate it. And thank you for helping getting us here today. So let's go to the course. One of the main foundational courses that we created based on some of the questions that we've been asked over the years is the Open Banking Essentials course. Now, this course is designed for a broad audience within financial institutions, from the business to the technical. It basically defines and clarifies the open banking principles. You can think of it as a strategic toolkit to help equip you with the knowledge to have conversations, make decisions, leverage open banking. This course, it does get into some technical aspects, but not too deep that business will get lost. It is just enough so that you can understand what is required, and so that you can speak with confidence when speaking with your technical teams. Now, this is an excellent course to upskill yourself and all your team members quickly. So to get you all on the same page, so that you're not spending months and years, because frankly, you don't have months and years. This disruption, this innovation is going on like right now. I mean, it started, years ago, and it's just gaining more and more momentum. So if you want to start open, you need to start open banking strategy, open finance strategy. This is a great course to just have everybody take in your organization, to get you all up on the same speed, speaking the same terms, and knowing what you have to do. And so you can really, benefit from that. As I said before, we've also curated, besides the Open Banking Essentials course, we've also curated courses to take you on that journey from getting organized with your data governance, to designing and building your first APIs, to securing those APIs, and to governing all those APIs. And we've brought in industry leaders. You'll hear from two of them today who've built some of these classes. We have James Higginbottom and Mike Amundsen. And so be sure to stay through to the end, because they're going to wrap it up with some great insights on some of those design and governance topics that we just talked about. So with that, I just want you to start and further and upskill your knowledge about open finance, and learn today and participate and help build this community. This community is for you. So join today. Just go to, on the screen, go to the openfinity.org, start collaborating and learning. We want to help. We're here for you, and you will help build the next financial services, what it's going to look like in the future. We do have paid memberships that give you various discounts on the courses that we offer at OpenFinity, on the OpenFinity courses and our partner courses. The memberships also come with advisory sessions, so you can basically use them as like phone an expert to get advice and guidance. Again, this community is about you. So thank you.
Awesome. So that's actually a perfect segue to introduce my good friend, Derek Wicks. By the way, did you know that we have over 200 attendees that sign up for this event, Laura? That's really cool.
Yes, very cool.
So Derek Wicks is a pioneer in the world of community. He's a legend. And so he built one of the first most successful community many years ago in the world of DevOps, and published this wonderful book about building community. And in January, I had a coffee with Derek, because both of us lives in Washington, D.C. And I said, you know what? Your book came up as the perfect time. Actually, I think I read it like in a few hours. And I have so many questions to ask you, because I want to build a community. So, Derek, why don't you explain what is a community and how does that work?
Yeah. Well, Laurent and Laura, thank you for inviting me to join you in this inaugural event and kicking off your own community. It's very exciting to see the progress that has been made from that meeting at a local coffee shop to today, and what OpenFinity has become. So as Laurent said, I started a community a long time ago in the DevOps space that over 100,000 people participated in, called All Day DevOps. It's something that still runs today. And since then I've run and led various community efforts at my current company, where I'm chief marketing officer, is a company called Catalan. Our community just crossed 70,000 members this week. So it's an exciting part of something that I spend a lot of time on. But going back to your question, Laurent, about what is community, I think all of us, regardless of who you are or where you live, participate in a community, either where you live, in your business or your industry. Maybe it's your local church, or football parents or soccer parents that get together and have that community. But there's something in common that all these communities share. One is it's a place where people build relationships, and that is the most important foundational piece of communities, is building those relationships. And those relationships form around a common interest, and in this case, open banking. And as the communities form and grow and share information with one another, they create a shared history of how does this community evolve and work together? What are the values that we have? How do we as a community drive change in our own professions and our careers, by participating in communities? How do we also help others build and grow in their own careers? And working together, collaborating together, how do we make and create a movement that can really change an industry? It can change companies. It could start new companies. It can influence regulation that is out there, or that is soon to be out there. And it also is interesting when the people come together and coalesce. It provides a collective identity. Like, we are the OpenFinity community, and we're doing something together, and we're not doing it or going out there as a vendor that's trying to pitch you or sales pitch you and sell you products and influence that way. But we're coming together as a way to share information, improve ourselves as professionals, and that sort of thing.
Oh, this is great, Derek. So you mentioned that it's not about pitching product, and so for vendors who will also be interesting of joining the community, we want to provide, obviously, with OpenFinity, a safe place where this is a non-solicitation platform. People are not joining the community to get pitches on product, all day long. But why so you had, in your community, you have many vendors who join that community. So why vendors should join this community?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And part of that is, and believe me, I've spent my career working at vendors in various software companies. And there's always a place in a market to go and pitch or promote products. But no matter what company that I worked in and what products I was selling, there was more that our customers and our industry wanted to do than what my company was offering. We weren't a one-stop shop for people, process, technology, career advancement, advice, right? Training and education, and all of those things that would cover all bases. And I think that the vendors participated in the community, one, because they had knowledge in the space to share. Their knowledge, just as you have subject matter experts in any particular market or with any particular vendor, that subject matter expertise extends beyond a product offering or platform that a company may offer. And for people in the community that participate, that really get value out of it, the reason that I show up to any community that I participate in is I want to become better at in professional communities at the profession that I'm pursuing. How do I do that? By collaborating with others, meeting others, learning from others within my community, and raising my own knowledge and information in ways. And the key thing about doing it in a non-vendor pitchy kind of environment is you want to go someplace where you're having authentic conversations. You don't go and meet your friend in the community for coffee and have your friend come over with a sales pitch. Hey, Derek, now that we're together, would you buy my product? It's like, no, this is not why I'm here in the community. I want to learn and converse and, share knowledge and exchange and build and grow together. And I think that's really where, if you're a vendor in the community, coming together in this kind of community is a place that you can learn from, contribute to, and even become a leader within the community by contributing more and more time and networking. And you'll grow your network of people around this common space. And as a result, you'll probably end up being a better vendor as a result of the knowledge that you would get in this kind of space.
And you're making a very good point. I have joined professional community as well, and I have to say, it's also the power of the numbers. The more we are collectively, the better we are. Sometimes I have questions, and I turn to the community, and I get an answer from 3-4 people in 24 hours, and like good content. People who wants to help. Generally, most people wants to help other people, and that's what this is about. This is about this one-stop shopping, like you said, where people can turn to their peers. Whether you are in IT space, whether you are on the business side, product manager, and share ideas, but also you can we want also have job postings where sometimes it's difficult to find talent, right? Yeah. You're looking to hire like a data scientist. Yeah. Hey, anyone has someone to recommend? And maybe someone who's actually in between jobs, looking for their next career move, and there you go. And networking that way is much more powerful, than trying to send your resume via LinkedIn, 100 times a day.
Yeah, and I would say, yeah, the other thing about this is, imagine like the place where you really get to see community firsthand. When you go to community events, you're at a trade show or a conference, and there are a bunch of sessions, but then in between sessions and in the hallway tracks and at the lunch tables that you sit at, you have this ability to interact together and learn from and meet other people. But those events only happen, you only get to go to 1, 2, maybe 3 a year if you're lucky. What do you do in between all of those times to find authentic conversations from people in your community with shared interests, with shared history, right? This is like bringing a community together like this online, bringing the Slack channel together, the Slack workspace together, is a place for people to interact in those moments when you can't be together physically in person, but you do want that same kind of knowledge and experience and exchange, authentic, human exchanges. That's really the power of this kind of thing in the OpenFinity Slack workspace.
So before we ask our next 3 esteemed guest speaker from Truist, Zion Bank, and the Covantage Credit Union, why don't you share with us, Derek, some advice on what works, what doesn't in a community?
Yeah. So I'll just go with 2 simple ones, because I know you have a lot of guests on the agenda today. Yep. The first one is, and you've already said it, no vendor pitches. Because again, just like the coffee shop experience, no one wants to show up and be pitched. They're showing up to learn how to become better at their profession and a better contributor to it. The other thing that I'd recommend, and Laurent and Laura, you and I haven't talked about this, but when we built the all-day DevOps community years ago, we had rule of yes that we used in our community. So someone would come and say, you know what this community needs is a cultural transformation discussion, because whether it's in DevOps or open banking, like this is something that I want. You know what we need? We need a workspace or a channel on regulation and how to deal with the new regulations come out. And what we did was, instead of Laurent, you and Laura saying, yes, I'll take that on, I'll own it, we actually asked the community members who suggested it to participate in the community and own that topic and drive it. And that's how we actually built a massive amount of participation from the community, because if someone came to me with an idea on how to grow the community, I didn't want to own it. I wanted them to own it, because that makes the thing that they wanted more authentic. I might change it or have my own perspectives on that. And we always told people, try it, bring it to the community. If it works, keep doing it. We had people leading efforts like that for 5-6 years in a row after they just came to me at a dinner and said, I have an idea. What if? And we just took it from there and let the community grow itself.
Awesome. That is awesome. So, well, thank you so much, Derek, for your participation into this event, this launch. Your wisdom and your experience sharing on how to run a community. Hopefully, we can reach the same numbers of members that you got.
I think you can.
But that's again, this is what this is about. The more we are, the more powerful collectively we become. So with that said,
thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you so
Laura, when
much.
we bring our next speakers?
All right, give me one moment as I bring them all on stage. There we go.
Hello.
There we go. All right. Thank you all for joining. How about let's start off with Sean, then Nicholas, and then Lisa. Each give a little brief introduction of yourselves and what you do.
Sean Behandle at Covantage Credit Union in Anago, Wisconsin. So nice to be here, and I appreciate you guys having me. As CIO for Covantage, obviously, I'm involved in most areas of technology within the credit union, and just being aware of kind of fintech spaces and that type of thing. I met Laura, I think about 3 years ago. Laura at a convention, and we started talking about APIs and connectivity, and now it's turned out to be a 3-year relationship. So, but I appreciate you having me here today. So thank you.
Thank you very much. All right.
Hi, Nicholas Zeman. I'm a Senior Solutions Architect at Zions Bank, one of the biggest regional banks in America. I'm on the team working to integrate open banking and API-based banking into our banks. We have none of that right now, so we're on our open banking journey. And also, I'm in the innovation team. I do a lot of stuff with the upcoming CBDC, blockchain, internal financial blockchains, that kind of stuff. So really focus on innovation and modernization of our bank.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us. And Lisa.
Hello. Hi. Thank you so much for having me, Laura and Laurent. It's great to see you both again. I'm the head of data management and governance for Truist Bank. And as you both know, it's a new role for me. I've been here for a couple of months now and really enjoying it, building out a data governance program for the bank and making sure that we have proper management over all of our data across the organization. So this is a really important topic to me, right? Because there's data management issues involved, as well as risk management and making sure that we're in compliance with regulatory expectations. So excited to be here.
Great. Thanks again for everybody for being here. How about let's start off with a question. And I'd like to have, we have 3 different sizes of financial institutions here. We did that on purpose so that we can see the diversity of challenges and how how it affects everybody. So we're going to start off with Sean, then Nicholas, then Lisa. So the question is how is open banking and the upcoming 1033 ruling impacting your business today?
I think it's a great question. First of all, I get to go first because I'm the smaller of the three, I assume, right? Because I don't know all the sizes of the other. We're about a $3.5, $3.6 billion credit union in Wisconsin, right? So when you look at, how it's impacting us directly, it's really about the data. It's really about the integration of the different APIs that we use across the different platforms that we utilize. But really the impact is kind of slow right now. I do think it's going to speed up probably towards, after the rule is finally put into effect here later in the fall. But I do think, the biggest impact is going to be around how do we open those up? How do we get the data to where it needs to be? Security is top of mind. Obviously, regulatory pieces aside, I think privacy is going to be top of mind. All of the different components around that. How do you do that in a secure and consistent manner? But I mean, choosing the right partners are going to be important too. We've chosen a partner on the API management side that I think is going to be very effective in what they're offering there. Obviously, we're going to lean into standards like FDX and other standards to help us get to that journey. But it's a kind of an evolving situation. I think a lot of the challenges are going to be, especially in the credit union space versus I think on the banking side, is going to be how do we leverage our technology QSOs? How do we leverage other partners there too as well too?
All right. Thank you. Nicholas?
So for us, it created a ton of confusion. So the problem with it, I had a meeting just a minute ago, but a while ago when we first kind of entered into the space, we had a meeting with our CTO who had just gotten here. And because I'm a technologist, I see this as just this great thing for consumers and great things for technology, but the banks see it as bad for business. So we see it as something we don't want, we don't like, we don't want to support, we have to do it. And I'm hoping that we can turn that around. But I had this meeting with the CTO and we were showing her all of our plans for architecture and for, the roadmap to get to open banking. And she said, well, open banking is just a lose for the banks. And I was totally shocked because what do you mean? Because for me as a technology person, this is great. All this open banking, it's amazing, this aggregate amount of money flowing through different places. But she's like, no, for business, we want to keep these accounts. We want stickiness. We don't want people to port their money around to other places looking for a better deal. I don't want someone getting 0.5% better interest rate on a loan and going for someone else and just taking their account and moving it. So the idea is that for us, we see it at the outset as a tremendous strain on our resources. We don't get anything out of it. We have to put up all this stuff. We have to undertake all this risk in order to open up our internal, banking business instruments to external parties. So we see this as just a huge thing we don't want to do, but also recognize that we have to. There's no way we're getting away with not having open banking implemented. So now the next thing that we needed to look at is monetization. Now we're like, okay, we got to do it. It's going to happen. So how do we make money off of it?
Wonderful. I right there, how you explained it is you were focusing on the data out scenarios. How do you open up and share your data out? But when, part of the course, we discussed the other side of the equation. It's the data in as well, and how, financial institutions can also, by having data out and leveraging data in, can also increase that stickiness and actually create those monetization scenarios that you're looking for. So, but what you said is exactly what I've heard from almost every financial institution I have went to over the last few years. So thank you for that. And Lisa.
Yeah, so I'm take a little different approach, but I'm going to talk about value a little bit later, Laura, because I think that's a really important component. But for us today, Truist is 7th largest bank in the country. We're over 500 billion in asset size. So it's very different view for us. We have a two-pronged goal right now for our business in terms of immediate impacts is we're trying to solve to moving away from screen scraping, right? That's critically important for us from a risk management perspective. So we've been focused on entering into data access agreement negotiations with the major data aggregators to get us prepped and ready. And we're in concert with that. We're working towards compliance with all the components of 1033. So we are actively working on our API internally and trying to get that ready in compliance with the rule. So there's technical components of that. There's data requirements, as both folks talked about a little bit earlier. But there are also other components to the regulation that we're reviewing and making sure that we understand what we have to do from a risk management and reporting perspective. So the data and the tech is very, very important, but there are other components that we're trying to understand before, we actually have to become compliant, because that timeline is going to be so short for us.
Thank you. Speaking of that timeline, that brings me to my next question. With the 1033 ruling, it specifies a compliance timeline. My question to each of you is, what do you think of that compliance timeline? As far as, are you going to wait? I mean, this is also a market-driven approach. Waiting could be a negative impact on a business as well if you're not participating both in the data and data out scenario. So what is your view on the current timelines as proposed by the 1033? You can start with you, Nicholas.
Sure. We're scrambling. We've got vendors. You know how long it takes to get for a bank of our size to get a vendor through risk and supplier chain management. And so we've really been having a hard time saying, who are we going? We're going with a vendor. We're not doing it ourselves. Who are we going with, and how long can we reasonably take to get this implemented? So we got a year now worth of 9-month point. So yeah, we're scrambling, and we're really trying to figure out the best way to do it. And so I think in the end, we have to make some very rapid decisions to get something out there that complies.
Yeah, I would agree with Nicholas. I think, just in the credit union space overall, especially when you look at, and obviously the institution size is much, much smaller, right? So we don't have kind of the view that a lot of the larger banks have, from a regulatory standpoint. But I also think that we're going to be more surprised at that smaller level, because a lot of credit unions aren't looking at 1033. They're not looking at FDX. They're not looking at how do we allow that. I think CoVantage is really unique in some aspects, because our mission is to serve all regardless of wealth and provide outstanding value and exceptional service, working with members experiencing financial challenge. And I think that open banking to us appeals to our mission at our very core, which is we want members to be able to have that ability, financially inclusive, from that standpoint. And when you look at open banking, so I think for us, we're welcoming that challenge and that take. Nicholas, you had kind of mentioned the view of the threat, right, from open banking. And I do think initially that a lot of credit unions are going to look at that as a threat. They're going to say, okay, well, we have to provide this API out to be able to do that. But I do think it gives ultimately the consumer or the member the opportunity to do things that they weren't able to do in the past, from that standpoint, from a technology standpoint, to move their whether payments or move their money or whatever they're doing through that channel. But I do think it's going to be a huge opportunity for everyone.
Yeah. The consumer, I think you're right. Consumer, it's awesome. And I think the banks need to kind of get on board with, okay, how does this work for us? What does this do for us as well as the consumer?
Yeah. So Lisa, you wanted to talk about value. And I think that's very important, because right now,
sure,
every time that there is some sort of regulations that's come out, everybody, whatever the industry say, we have to comply. That's kind of like, something that we have to do. If you look at, in the old days, when you wanted to move from a cell carrier to another, you will be losing your cell phone number.
Right.
Today, you can keep it and change. Does AT&T, Verizon, and others are not doing as well as they used to? No, they're doing even better. They just find a way to leverage this capability and find other ways to attract value, more customers, instead of keeping them, kind of like, hamstring, if you will,
Mhm.
and staying them with your bank. So what do you think of this, Lisa? And what
Sure.
value do you see?
Yeah, so I think there is a lot of value, because I think one of the first things fundamentally everybody has to like understand is people have accounts at multiple institutions. It's not because they, it's sometimes it's out of need, right? And so we view open banking as our next channel. We have online banking, mobile banking, and then open banking, right? And so when you think about it in that context, we're really looking at this is an additional channel, an opportunity for us to meet our clients where they are and to help them have a good experience. So we want to really focus on the fact that the clients are asking for their data to be used for a specific purpose, and we want that experience to be good for them, whether the data is being shared from us to someone else or from another fintech or another bank into us to service our client. Because if clients can't actively be able to have a good experience in sharing their data across in order to meet their financial needs, I think that's what creates the stickiness is, can you meet the client where they are? Can you meet their needs? And can they have a good experience in whatever it is they're trying to accomplish for their financial goals? And I think that will create the stickiness and have them come to us through this channel to look at more of our products and services. So we're definitely taking a use case approach for that and looking for powering these bespoke experiences for our customers. And it's very similar to what you were saying, Laurent. Like one of the things that we're looking at different opportunities, and one of them is direct deposit switching, right? So that's like what you're talking about with cell phones and carrier switching, making that a good experience for folks. Looking at opportunities across payments, account opening, and just really leveraging that to provide the best experience possible for our customers, and being able to meet them where they are and offer our products and services through this extra channel of open banking.
Thanks.
Nicolas, I think your CTO should talk to Lisa and join the OpenFinity community and start collaborating.
Yeah, I'd love to have a chat and see, get some insights from you.
But Nicholas, you mentioned something I think too from a business aspect that's important, and we're all being pressured, I think, in the non-interest income when you look at fees, you look at those types of things that right now are frankly, especially in credit union space, a lot of credit unions live and die by the fees, and I mean that's just the honest truth. I mean. And I do think that as we lose those sources of income, it is important to look at it as a monetization strategy as well. We're offering a service for the members. There is certain aspects of that frankly we should be, charging for. But I also think it's a huge opportunity for us just to, like you had mentioned the word stickiness, I think, Lisa, is to be able to get that stickiness and to bring that member in. Europe is way ahead of us in a lot of areas, and I think this is one of them where they've developed these platforms now where I can have a checking account from this institution, I can have my CD over here, I can have that flexibility, and it's really benefited the businesses as well. Because no longer is, and I'm just using Fidelity as an example, but Fidelity, the only person that can, have this particular service, you can offer it now as well, no matter what your size is. So I do think it levels that playing field a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the cell phone analogy is great. I mean, they boxed us in for so long, and finally, when they opened it up, they did even better. We were able to move around, and they didn't lose $1 of business. They only got more. Right. I think we're starting to see it that way. But don't forget banks, especially Zion's a regional bank. We're like, okay, we want all our customers, we want all our accounts, we want all of our deposits, we want all of our loans. We don't want them going anywhere else. And we're just now starting to say, okay, maybe this portability methodology is better for us.
And to me, the catalyst in this regulation is what you say, Lisa, removing screen scraping, which is an unsecure piece of technology that's been used for the last 10 years. As soon as you can have a consent, as they call it, consumer permission data sharing that is secure through APIs, so that you don't have to share your username and the password of your checking account anymore, which, again, that's kind of insane when you think about it. As soon as you can do that, then, to me, really, the sky is the limit. And it's actually could go beyond just, the banking community. You think about, all the things you could get that could make your life easy when you travel, for instance. It could open up, better financial inclusion, where you can have a better sense of, the credit risk and the capabilities of, some of these customers that you can offer loans, or whatever. So I think that this is going to create an explosion of market-driven competitions and innovation that, frankly, we haven't seen here in the US quite for some time.
I would
So,
agree.
so Nicholas, you've been, kind of speaking on the worldwide opportunity here. You've been speaking at symposiums around the world on financial services. What do you see as trends that open finance is opening up to the world that are really feasible?
What I saw, so I just came back from Dubai. I gave a speech at a conference mostly on digital currency, upcoming central bank digital currency and financial blockchains. But what I see, the trend, number one, a lot of people are just skipping cards. People are just dumping cards altogether. We don't need cards anymore. We're doing mobile pay, and mobile pay is dependent on open banking and open finance. So people from all over the world, just like, especially India and China, people are just ditching this card mentality and saying we're going to only mobile pay, only open banking. And that trend has become pretty much cemented as the easiest way to do monetary transfers. That's one thing I've noticed. And I think that's good because we do kind of, in America, have these whole, I got a wallet full of cards. And
you know what? I don't even carry a purse anymore. I have my mobile phone. And the other day I was taking my son out to dinner, and it was in a smaller town. So I actually had to bring my credit card with me. And you know what I did? I left my darn credit card there, so I had to cancel my credit card because I was going to drive 2 hours to go pick it back up. But I think this whole drop the card mentality, I think, is here to stay, and I love it for it.
Yeah, and I think that kind of makes it much more interoperable across Europe. And there's a lot of Europe. India is huge. They're just not using cards at all anymore. That's the one trend. The other one is just this kind of incredible risk tolerance for crypto. People are buying and selling property in Dubai with Bitcoin and stable coins. And I mean, this guy's, got 7 real estate businesses, and they're all working entirely in crypto, which I think is insane. I mean, to me, it's like to come from a risk intolerant space. It's just like you're buying and selling property with Bitcoin, and so, but the problem they have is that they all want American dollars. They all want to put that crypto into American dollars, not their own currency. And a lot of people from Argentina,
You're good.
Oh, can you still hear me? Yeah, something
Yep.
happened. I've been having some connection. Oh, okay, that's what's going on.
Nope, you're still good.
You're good.
My screen just went blank for a minute and I panicked. All right, so what's happening is they want, like, people from Argentina say, okay, we've got people investing in all kinds of things, real estate, crypto. We want American dollars. Our own currency is not that stable. So we have a tremendous amount of people trying to move currency into American dollars, but they don't want to go through foreign exchange, and they don't want to go through setting up accounts in America. So there's this big kind of desire for the American dollar because it is stable, but there's a huge amount of risk tolerance for trading in crypto for things that we would consider securities and things that we would consider actual real world assets that we would never touch or buy ourselves crypto. And that's another big trend I saw, which was just kind of interesting to me, coming from like the crypto background that I do, just to say, okay, well, there's a need for a lot of people to talk about portability. We're talking about like international portability of investment and currency. And that takes it open banking one step further, where it's not just inside of America or inside of a national banking system. It's international.
Yes, I cannot wait to those that know me, my husband's English. And so trying to move assets across countries is always a challenging feat. All right. So one last quick question for each of you, and we can start with Lisa, then go to Nicholas, and then to Sean. We've talked a lot in the last 10, 15 minutes about open finance. We've been through several different use cases and business use cases. Can you pick, and I know, Lisa, you've already said some of these, but can you pick one or two business use cases that you see for your bank or credit union for open finance? what are those business use cases?
So I would say, as I was saying earlier, I think two of the most important probably for us are account opening and direct deposit switching, right? And facilitating that for our clients quickly, easily, and so we can onboard them very quickly if they want to come and open an account, right? And then really, and we were talking about the stickiness, like how can we leverage open banking to, if they're not already using direct deposit with us, finding a fast and easy way for them to switch over to us, right? Where that doesn't become a difficult, long process and people give up, right? Because they can't facilitate it easier, and it's just easier to leave it wherever it is, because the lift to do that change is so much. So I think those two things, both of those require facilitation, very quick facilitation for the client to be able to share the data they need to share in order to open that new account or to switch that direct deposit.
Yep. No, I agree on that open account. I was trying to open account. This was during COVID when we couldn't go into the bank for my son who had just turned 18, and to try to open a bank account for him at our current financial institution was difficult. So we had to go around to find some place where I could do it online. And so we ended up at a different financial institution because
people want to do that online and they want to be able to fund the account immediately.
And my kids now are, 20 somethings, and going physically to a bank gives them major anxiety. They can't even imagine having to go. They're like, what do I, it's almost as bad as going to the doctor. What do I say? What do I do? I'm like, start with hello, what you want. But it's that generation.
We're going to need to go to our next speaker. So why don't we finish with Nicholas and then Sean on your question.
Will do. Go for it, Nicholas.
All right, two places, identity verification and loans. So we would like to be able to do KYC instantaneously, and there's a whole lot of really cool identity verification technologies coming out, like decentralized ID and reusable credentials. So if we can do a KYC on someone and offer a loan, or even get the KYC to go through us, through an open banking identity verification system, and then even if they get a loan with someone else, we can actually charge for the credential we issue. So those are the two places I think we could really use open banking to actually generate revenue and monetize it.
And I think I'll just add to that real quick. I think I look at mobile ID from the driver's licenses, that we're looking at that as well. I think that's a great one right there, Nicholas. But, Lisa brought up the account opening. I think that is the biggest challenge. I call that the sister-in-law experience, because she took out a mortgage through us, but she couldn't fund her account in 3 days, right? Because of ACH. So I think that type of money movement is really going to be the key to, especially the younger generation. They want to be able to move that money very quickly. So how does open banking help with that aspect?
All right. Well, thank you all for joining. We could probably go on for another 3 hours here just talking about the different use cases. Thank you again, and looking forward to seeing your contributions to the community and helping each of you with your needs. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great day,
everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Bye. All right. Let me get our next speakers. 1 second, added onto the stage. And there we are. There we go. All right. Hey, thanks for joining, Anil and David. Why don't we start this section of conversation off with you both introducing yourselves and what you do and your role in open finance.
Go ahead, Anil.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Anil Mahalaha. I'm a chief evangelist at Akoya. I'm a founding employee of Akoya. We started about 5 years ago, back in Fidelity Investments. Prior to Akoya, I was at Fidelity for about 20 years. Before that, at Liberty Mutual for 10 years. So I've been in the financial services industry for 35, 40 years now. One of the other things at Fidelity was open banking, right? We were writing APIs, and at that time we didn't have any standard. There was no FTX back then. So I'm one of the original authors of the API that is now the FTX API. We started that back in FSISAC, and then also went on to be a founding member of the Financial Data Exchange.
Very good.
David?
And I'm David Whitcomb. I work for MX Technologies. We're an account aggregator and financial wellness and data enhancer in the financial services space. I don't have the tenure of Anil, but I do have 16 years of experience in financial services. I started my career at a credit union about 16 years ago and worked there for a decade, doing anything from running the mortgage shop, building and running the mortgage shop, to developing online banking, mobile banking applications, and integrating with some aggregation services directly, and then building a small development team along the way. I worked for Fiserv, one of the larger players in financial services, for a few years before coming to MX, where I've been for about 5 years now. So I've seen a lot. I've had my hands on a lot of technology, and I've worked with folks like Anil through the FTX and other organizations over my past 5 years. So I'm glad to be here today.
So David, when we speak about open banking, often the first use case that come up in the conversation is account aggregation. So what is an account aggregator, and what value do you deliver to the financial ecosystem?
Sure. If I take a step back to what is account aggregation is the act of collecting a user's accounts from different institutions and bringing them into one location. That act of bringing all that data together into one place is often done by an account aggregator who has various API connections, screen scrapes, or sanction connections that allows them to go in, and whether it's using a user's credentials or hopefully using a token with APIs, go and collect the data that's available to bring it in what I would say is normalize it into a single format, so that the third party who's consuming it, who that user has chosen to help them with their finances, can consume it efficiently and easily. And so the end user is getting what they want out of their finances. They're getting clarity, they're getting access to tools they want to use, or potentially they're getting access to a loan or a new account they're trying to open. There are tons of use cases that are empowered by it. Yeah, go ahead, Laura.
So just to kind of clarify, when I talk to banks and financial institutions, and as you saw from the previous session, is that a lot about open finance and open banking is about the data out scenarios. Oh, we're going to open up and get rid of our data's going to go out. But would it be fair to say that aggregators help with the data in scenarios in order to help with the monetization, putting those two things together, out and in?
Absolutely. Aggregators are focused on taking data that is pushed out, or they're collecting the data out and making it data in, so that whether it's a financial institution or a third party, that data can be used to benefit both that third party as well as the end user who's choosing to share the data. Many of us are masters of the data out. We capture it, we collect it, we normalize it, we enhance it, and we create other derived data sets on it or other experiences based on the data we're collecting. So we're kind of the masters of data out. And the problem that we solve, even whether it's FTX APIs or it's APIs and scrapes in general, is that there are thousands of institutions in the United States and in Canada. And so to collect and maintain and normalize all of those APIs, ideally they'd be the same. In reality, they're not. And so if that's not an aggregator, it means that that third party has to then normalize themselves, maintain all those API connections or scrapes themselves. And it's a lot of work. And so the value we add to the ecosystem is really focused on that normalization layer, making everything easily consumable for the end user's ultimate gain.
That's a very, very, very good point that you're making, David. So Anil, you're with Akoya. Akoya has a slightly different positioning that traditional account aggregator. So can you explain what is the role of Akoya in the ecosystem, and what value do you deliver to the community?
Well, we bring a lot of value. The way Akoya is different from a traditional aggregator is several things, actually. Primary is that we do not store the data, right? And then we do not scrape the data. So it's only 100% API based. Akoya was created, like I said, about 4 years ago, to eliminate credentials out of the market, right? And credentials are used for screen scraping. And CFPB talks a lot about screen scraping in their NPRM as well. That eventually, I think the goal would be to remove screen scraping. So Akoya is a data access network. It connects the third parties, fintechs, aggregators to the bank. So it is getting the data out on the one side. And like David said, if you get the data out, you got to do something and it goes into somewhere else, right? So we provide the same services. We do normalization on the fly. We are FTX compliant. So our products and services are FTX compliant. And we do not store the data. So that's how it is different from a traditional aggregator. And then if you one of the things that you cannot do if you do not store the data is you cannot monetize on the data. So that's obviously another thing that Akoya does not do. So it's a pure pass-through aggregation model.
So, could you give a use case that a financial, like a financial services company or a third party, give an example use case of how they would use Akoya?
Yeah, so like any other aggregator, right? They would the third party would sign up to Akoya. It's a network. So once you go to the bilateral agreement, once you onboard onto the Akoya network, then you have access to the thousands of banks we have. So the third party would sign up on the network, and then the banks. We have several thousand banks on the network as well, core providers, individual banks. And they connect to the network. So it's one contract for the bank to connect, one contract for the third party to connect. But once you connect, then you have access to everybody who's on the network. So if let's say a fintech goes to an aggregator that is connected to Akoya, then the fintech can pull data from any of the banks that is connected. And we have a standard interface, like David was also talking about. There's a standard interface that aggregators have, so you can call the Akoya APIs to get the data, and you can get it from any which bank, but it all comes as normalized into the FTX format. And then you provide the products and services. All of the use cases that the previous panel was talking about, you have access to all of that.
So thank you for that, Anil and David. I think that's very helpful, to clarify. Sometimes it's a little bit confusing for the people that are not, deep into, that industry. So let's say we are in October of 2024, only 6 months from now, and the rule 1033, which is really real names, AKA open banking, now is the law of the land. So is that great opportunity or a necessary evil?
Not an evil. Go ahead, David.
I was gonna say, yeah, not evil at all. Not evil at all. It's a great opportunity. I think it's a great opportunity that will not be without its stumbles along the way, but it is an incredible opportunity. I think it's an incredible opportunity for data providers, which are primarily banks and credit unions. But I think it's also the greatest opportunity for end users who will have clean and consistent access to their data when and where they want it. And that it'll empower, well, I think what we've seen distinctly is there are more banks and credit unions who have been hesitant to embrace data in, are starting to embrace data in. And so we see that opportunity starting to surface because there's been a hesitancy historically, because a legal team will say, well, if we bring that in, are we at risk? Because now, even though we don't have the credentials that we're paying for a service that stores someone else's credentials. And so once credentials are out of the ecosystem, those concerns go away. Those kind of liabilities and risks go away. And so banks, chief information security officers and chief legal officers have a much fewer concerns as once 1033 will be in place.
That's a this legal aspect is a very good point. So Anil, you heard, our previous speaker. Some of them are looking at, open banking as, bad things. We want, this our stuff to be sticky. And, but you heard Lisa saying this is a great opportunity. So obviously there are some mixed feeling. What would you say to, a bank to convince them to, go ahead and look at open banking as a great opportunity, like David said?
First thing I would tell the bank is Akoya has a 1033 compliant solution, so you use that, and that'll make you 100% compliant with
I'm sure you will.
33. No, but I think David alluded to that, right? The banks, gone are the days when the bank look at open banking, at least the ones we talk to, look at open banking as, as like you were probably alluding to, as an evil. It is an opportunity to participate in an ecosystem. Banks are also one of the biggest consumers of the data, and so you get a 360, view of the consumer's wallet. You can provide them more products and services. You can compete better. And then also one of the concerns with screen scraping, right, was that unfettered access to the data beyond the use that you are providing the third party. I mean, the consumer. So open banking 1033 takes care of that. And not only that, but what only 1033 also takes care of is third parties will also have certain obligations in addition to the data provider, and those obligations are making sure the data is safe, secure. The stuff that FTX talk about, right? You have control, you have access, transparency, traceability, security. So all of those things are baked into 1033. So I think it makes, and then also the user has more control. So every 12 months, you have to make sure that you agree to reauthentication, reauthorization. And then if you don't, then the data gets deleted. So that it's all good. I mean, I've read the 299 pages a few times. I haven't found anything bad in there. Now, there are certain things that obviously this is the first of the rulemaking, right? So there's certain things that can be improved upon and certain things that are missing. But I'm sure, we will get there.
I think, like, if I can add to what Anil said and comment on the fear of open banking, I think having worked for a credit union for a decade, working with banks in some capacity for the past 16 years, I've heard that sentiment my whole time. And I think what is happening or will have to happen for banks to thrive is that they will have to take an offensive stance on product development and new banking service development to build the trust of their customers. And so this is an opportunity for them to stop focusing so much on defense and protection, but focus on offense, because ultimately there's been a challenge of fee reduction over the past 5 years with fintechs coming in with low cost of funds, challenging NSF fees and interchange fees, and CFPB hasn't helped. But that is an opportunity. They have to change the way they think about product development, change the way they think about user engagement, think about the way they're creating a holistic user experience that open banking does enable. If they don't embrace it and take an offensive view, they will be at risk. And that's just something that will have to be understood by the C-suites of many banks and credit unions.
May the credit union and banking opportunity listen to what you just said, because this is so true. The community should embrace as soon as possible and not wait, for the smaller credit union. They may have several years to comply, but by the time all their competitors will already be doing open banking. So that was a great testimonial from both of you. Two great actors of this ecosystem, very important actor. Thank you, David, from MX, and thank you, Anil from Akoya, for joining being a guest speakers and joining our event today. We hope to see you in this community and network, collaborate, and help the whole community at large to adopt open banking.
Yeah, and good luck with your endeavor up there, Laura and Laura.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So, Laura, why don't we bring two other important actors of the ecosystem? So
there we go. We're in.
So maybe we can start with you, Dawn. So I don't think that you need to introduce yourself anymore because you're becoming, the face of open banking and financial data exchange. But why don't we do a quick intro with you, Dawn, and then Heather.
Sure. So let's talk about FDX, the logo behind me. Financial Data Exchange is the leading open finance data standard in North America. We have about 76 million users who've moved away from screen scraping and credential-based access to tokenized access. And so we're enabling all the wonderful things we've talked about in prior sessions. You heard about data in, you heard about enrichment, you heard about helping flows and getting an idea of share of wallet. We're a voluntary organization. So just like USB designs these little things, They don't make the wires; they just figure that out. We get together and we decide jointly as a community what fields should be, how big they should be, what fields should be second, that sort of thing. My job is the managing director. So on behalf of the board of directors, our job is for my staff is to execute what the membership wants. And so I get to sit at kind of the nexus of all this stuff.
Awesome. Heather?
Hi, hi, Lauren and Laura. Nice to meet you. And thank you for inviting me. Hello, I am Heather Xiao. I'm from Horizon Zero. I'm the founder and CEO of this company, and it's only 3 years old. No, 3 weeks old. So it's a very, very new, similar to OpenFinity. And I'm actually dialing in from the UK. So hello, America. And I'm really glad to talk to you. I think the UK and America open banking is getting together to explore further fields. So it's really, really exciting. And about myself, I have been in the API and open banking world for the last decade, for 10 years. Yeah, and I started my career actually in Australia when I was head of API in Qantas airline, and then working for Australian banking on open banking, open API, etc. And before I came back to the UK in 2019, and I started with working with the banking camp. So I was working for Standard Chartered Bank as their regional open banking lead for Europe. And following that, I have been working for OBIE, so Open Banking Limited in the UK. And I've been the product operation director for OBIE. And it was until a few weeks ago, and this year I decided to go independent. But I had I feel the open banking experience in OBIE has also enabled me to have a very good view of all of the things. Actually, early on, a lot of people like Neil and David, etc., talk about how the banks fear about what the regulatory term will bring, and we have to speed up our API creation and make huge investment into the open banking product, and how do you deal with it? So so it's a really exciting subject to talk about, and I'm really glad that now Laura and Lauren has created this new community. I would love to support and to be part of the community. So thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Heather. So, Dawn, let's start with you. Why a standard?
Oh, gosh. I forget. Neil talked about the thousands of banks and fintechs out there and the ability to have a common network. Well, networks only work if they're wired up the same. Imagine all the websites you visit needed a special plug, and every one of them had a special plugin to talk to. You would literally have to have thousands of plugins to monitor instead of having just a one protocol that works for everyone. And indeed, that's what FDX provides, is that one common protocol that two women in a garage at MIT with the next cool fintech or the largest $1 trillion bank can all use the same tool, the same protocol to talk to each other. That's why standards are so vitally important. But they're also important in just keeping things straight in accuracy. For example, what's my balance for a credit card? Well, is it my promotional balance? Is it my statement balance? Is it my cash advance balance? Is it my current balance? Or is it my payoff balance? All of those are different amounts on a field, on the screen. All of them are dollar denominated. All of them say the word balance. They have vastly different outcomes if you're applying for credit. If I grab the wrong number, I may deny you credit, which could be illegal, or I may give you way more credit than you really responsibly should be handling, which does you a disservice. And so having the common taxonomy and having common understanding of what the data means, what the format is, makes it just easier and safer for everybody.
So that's I think that, one of the premise of open banking was to be based on a shared, common, and open standard.
Yes.
And I think that's the role fundamentally that FDX is playing in this ecosystem. FDX is a non-profit organization. Members are, most of them are from the banking community. And what you just said is huge because people don't necessarily realize. And so it's one of the first things that when I worked in the API world with banks, I learned is that, what is like you said, which balance are we talking about, right? What is the credit rate? Which one? And so a lot of times banks didn't do this work, and before FDX came in place, they had to do it, and it was a huge amount of work. So I think that's something that is absolutely essential for the success and the adoptions of open banking.
It will lower barriers to entry, so there shouldn't be any gaps between bigs and smalls, between API haves and have-nots. And I mentioned the 2 women in a garage with a cool new fintech.
Yep.
There's no barrier to entry. Well, I've got to get started in this place. I have to have a dozen developers with me. So that's an initial startup hurdle that a lot of micro businesses just can't get past. So I think that's really important with that. And we shop the planet when we put this together. Everyone planet-wide in Open Finance uses REST. They use JSON objects. Everybody uses OAuth tokens. A FAPI standard is a really tight, strict version of that. So you see this global best practice being adopted here in the US and Canada as well. I had written a shout out. Heather was right. Everyone uses REST, JSON, and FAPI.
Exactly. So Heather, you're in the UK, you had a head start, right? The open banking started in 2016, about 8 years ago. And we're talking about these regulations in 2024 in the US. So how did open banking started in the UK? What kind of experience here in the US we can draw from your experience?
Yeah, great question. I think it's so interesting that the UK and the US comes from different angles in open banking, and now is sort of like coming together to learn from each other. So in the UK, the momentum has been made mainly hugely through the regulatory push. So a comprehensive regulatory framework has really helped to accelerate open banking, and also the strong government backing as well to push the digital agenda. And about the standard, so Don was mentioning, is so important. So a comprehensive standard will help everyone to align and to create APIs that can be interoperable, so we can reuse the APIs to share the data from the banks to the third parties players, and as well as and ultimately the customers. Then with OBIE in the last 6 years, OBIE is now 6 years old, to create these comprehensive standards and also work with the ecosystem, working with the banks, the TPPs. So I think in American we call it ATPs, right? And also with the trade bodies to make sure that the standards are adhered to, as well as monitoring the availabilities of APIs to ensure the resilience of the overall open banking infrastructure and products. So I felt that has really hugely helped with the open banking growth in the UK. Then I felt that actually in the last few years, the progress has been accelerated. Like, for example, in this year, 1 in 5 small businesses and medium-sized businesses in the UK are using open banking. 1 in 7 consumers are using open banking. So although it's still at the early stage, but for the beginning journey of open banking, I think it's a big step. Then
Can I ask a question there?
Yeah.
You mentioned the one, the 1 in 7 and the 1 in 5. What are using open banking? What's the use case? Can you give an example of the use case that this 1 in 5 and 1 in 7 are using? To help formulate a reality around it?
Yeah, I think one of the celebrated use cases in the UK is the taxpayers. Like in the UK, HMRC, the tax department, has been collecting about, I think for this year, £3.5 billion of tax revenue through open banking payment. Then there are other use cases like aggregation and credit checks, etc. So I think, the open banking is focusing on the payment. So right now, a lot of use cases are on this space and account and payment space. But I would imagine when we go into open finance and open everything, so the use case will be broadened, and it will create even more value for the consumers. And then we can see the experience, customer experience, streamlined, and it will be much easier to accelerate.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So Don, one of the big part of the ecosystem in the US is a fintech community. You mentioned you took the example of two guys in a garage building a new fintech. How the fintech has adopted this FDX API de facto standard?
It's been well received. I mean, less than a third of our members are actually banks. Most of our members are not. Most of our members, 2/3, are not banks. And so the idea of think about data as the raw material. If I can get highly available, highly structured available, that comes in, now I can have better products. It's like any supplier. You want better quality raw materials coming in faster. And that's, I think, in a broader scope of suppliers. And the more banks and credit unions and regional and community institutions who stand up, brokerages and investment firms, even payroll companies that stand up the FDX endpoint, you now can bring in more and more raw materials, or a wider group of raw materials in highly secure, very privacy compliant, but in a way that allows you to then have great product coming out. So they're thrilled with it. It really lowers barriers to entry and can streamline things for them. Their investors like it.
That's awesome. Laura?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, when you think about it, it's really like standardizing on, our electrical outlets, right? Having the FDX APIs. If everybody can use those endpoints, you can easily make a plug to put in. You don't have to sit there and code or have multiple adapters for everybody as long as it's standardized. So, do you have any more questions, Laurent?
I have a millions of questions, but we are running a little bit out of time. So maybe we just can close, the argument by how do you see the dawn? Like I asked Anil and David. Let's say we are in October now. The final ruling is published. That's the law of the land. How do you see the ecosystem reacting to it?
Well, again, in any regulated industry, once a regulator says to do something, the parties that are regulated go and do it. So I'm not so much worried about that. We are hopeful, and we intend to apply to be recognized here in the U.S. and in Canada as a standard-setting body. So I'm hopeful that FDX will continue to serve the market well in that capacity. It will give the smaller institutions and community institutions guidance on what to do, how to do that, and we're here to help them with that. I just wanted to point out one last thing that was raised earlier. There's a little bit of fear out there, but I can tell you, having talked to our friends in Britain and Brazil and Australia and other jurisdictions who've gone before us, open finance doesn't lead to any mass exodus of consumers. Matter of fact, it deepens relationships. So that's always a bit of fear, uncertainty, and doubt out there. But I wanted to get that out there. It doesn't happen. It hasn't materialized. And thank you, Heather, for sharing your data, and our folks from Brazil doing that as well. So I'll leave you with that. It's the brave new world, but APIs are a net new channel, and you need to be ready to adopt that. Heather?
Yeah, I agree. I think, there is natural to have some fear, especially from the banks, because you are the givers of the data. But when banks become the receivers of the data and also benefit from open banking and open finance, then the world will become much more streamlined and through the APIs. So I thought the future could be bright.
Well, thank you both for being our guest speaker today in this event, part of this community. We hope to see you active in the Slack channel, and looking forward to collaboration for sure.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you both. All right, give me a moment and I will add. All right, James and Mike, we've known each other for years, and last but not least speakers of the day, but very important because this whole open finance, open banking ecosystem relies on APIs. They are the core foundation part of it. So we've known each other since APIs started. I think back at the first API strategy and practice conferences back in 2012 and 2014, somewhere way back then. But let's start off. Why don't you go ahead and kick it off, Mike, and introduce yourself, and then we'll follow up with James.
Yep. So my name is Mike Amundsen. I spend most of my time consulting, collaborating, and advising companies on how to design, build, implement, and maintain APIs. When I'm not doing that, I'm usually writing a book on some similar topics. You can probably find a couple of them around. I'm not the only one who writes books. I think there's someone else on this channel right now that has done that. But that's what I do. I focus on helping organizations figure out both tactically and strategically how to use APIs.
Yeah, thanks. James Higginbotham. I'm the founder of Launchini. I'm an API consultant. I focus on working with organizations to establish, grow, and mature their API practices. Mike and I have actually collaborated together on a number of different client engagements and different types of initiatives. As he mentioned, I'm an author as well, Principles of Web API Design. And I'm also the founder of APIcoach.io, which is a community of API leaders and practitioners that are building their API skills and using that to invest in their teams and their organizations and in their career.
Yep. And those classes are available on openfinity.org. And if you sign up, you get discounts at API Coach. All right, let's start off with some API discussions here. Now, one of the things, all those mid-size and down landscape organizations are probably thinking of is, well, what do you tell an organization, Mike, what do you tell an organization that does not have a lot of experience with APIs? Where should they start? What do they need to begin with to be effective? And what if they only consume third-party APIs today? So I asked a lot of questions all at once, but take her away.
Yeah, so it's a great question. APIs we've talked about this in a couple of different ways, and individual speakers already today have mentioned these connectors, these bits of glue. A lot of what the regulations talk about offer this opportunity to kind of create a level playing field of interaction between organizations, whether they're large or small. That's really good news for organizations that are relatively small. They're not sort of the big fish in the pond. But there can be some technical or implementation challenges. APIs is I encourage people to think of APIs as kind of a remodeling effort inside your community, your organization, your culture, your people. It isn't just a technical change. It's not just buying a photocopier. It's actually deciding how to rearrange the way lots of things work. So APIs offer a great opportunity. Actually, APIs themselves, these little technical bits of connectors, represent possibility. The possibility of doing a transfer, the possibility of onboarding a new account, the possibility of opening a short-term loan, the loan that might only be a couple of days old. But those possibilities, everybody can participate in. What makes different is you can collect APIs into applications. So I can create a mobile app, I can create an on-screen app that lets me do various things, that lets me shop for something and buy something on loan and so on and so forth, and do that all in a single case. So I think one of the things that I encourage people to think about is what these opportunities are going to be primarily driven by the APIs, and the APIs are driven by the regulations. So what we're really looking at is a great way to get started in reimagining what we do and how we can create a better relationship with customers.
That's a great way to look at it, and a great segue to you, James. You've worked with a lot of financial institutions that are trying to sort this all out. How do you balance the open banking APIs due to the regulation, like Mike had mentioned, versus the need to support internal processes and differentiating capabilities. I mean, that's, balancing that opportunity, balancing the regulation versus differentiating opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah, we heard about that from some of the earlier speakers as well. How do I balance those two sides? The first thing that I'd like for organizations to think about when they're moving forward with APIs is that APIs are really the digital front door to your organization. It's how you interact with the marketplace. It's how you do business. Now, you might be leveraging them for web or mobile applications, but you also are going to be leveraging them to integrate with partners and with your customers in different ways. So the first thing that I ask when I start to engage with an organization is, what's your digital front door say? Does it say go away, or does it say let's work together? And that's a fundamental principle that we have to think about. So when we think about these interoperability APIs, these standards that are coming up, we can marry the two of them together. We can use both of those to our advantage. We can use the interoperability to exchange data and to, as we've heard earlier, work with aggregators and other third parties. But we can also develop and deliver differentiating capabilities, or as Mike called, the possibilities that you're going to bring to the marketplace. So what we like to do is think of it from a two-pronged strategy from an API perspective. First is to focus on delivering delightful experiences. If we focus on that first, no matter if we're thinking about the interoperability side or the APIs that manage our day-to-day operations or deliver new capabilities beyond the standards that are out there, then we're going to be able to meet the needs of the marketplace. And that requires us to shift our focus a bit. Traditionally, IT and any kind of fintech organization is focused internally. How do we operate day to day? And we have to change that perspective and start to look externally. What does the market need? How are we interacting with it? And how are we taking our business capabilities, our products or services, and delivering those through a portfolio of APIs that leverage those standards, oftentimes taking an embrace and extend way of doing things. Let's use those standards as a way to guide our internal development, and then second, use that as the layer of interoperability. So we don't necessarily have to be constrained by those standards, but they can inform a lot of our internal decisions, and our API portfolio benefits from that. We're both delivering to the marketplace these experiences that are driven by the interoperability standards, as well as our own unique business capabilities that we're bringing to the marketplace.
Well, thanks, James. That is an excellent, answer to that question. And it kind of ties back to what Lisa was talking about earlier, that, they view these open banking APIs and channels as the next channel, just like the online banking portal was a channel. This is the channel of financial institutions for the future to their customers. So with that, Mike, what common challenges, what are the common challenges when mounting an API program for open banking or anything else? Specifically, when you think about that, we've got a lot of mid and smaller financial institutions that have to grapple with all of this, that don't have the endless amount of resources that some of the larger tier financial institutions have.
Yep. That's an excellent question, and it comes up quite a bit, and especially in regulatory cases like this, where we're all on a timeline, we're all on a deadline now to make sure that we meet certain requirements. One of the things that I encourage organizations to think about is to use the phrase tactical versus strategic. Strategically, long term, we want to open up new markets. We want to do new things. We want to find other creative ways to generate revenue. There are lots of things that we want to think about in the long term, but often those long-term strategies take long-term investments in experimentation and lots of trial and error and so on and so forth. We don't really often have the time for that. So a tactical approach is a much more pragmatic idea, which is, we're required to do these 25 things. Let's figure out how between now and next year we can solve that problem. And we don't need to think about them long term. We don't need to build the perfect example or anything. We just need to solve this problem, focus on serving our customers the way we should, and then we can continue working on our long-term strategies. So I think a lot of times a very successful approach to gaining space in the market, leveling up in technology or anything like that, is to have this kind of two-track approach. Be tactical for decisions today, be strategic in the long term. And you can use different kinds of thinking, different kinds of experiments, and even different kinds of technical implementations for each one of them.
Thank you very much. That's an excellent recommendation. So with that, when thinking about the tactical and the strategic, James, how do you help a bank prepare to design both from the, from a first time perspective, like, hey, we only consume outside APIs. How do we build our first API? I don't even really have a developer. How do I get started? And then how do you get to the next stage to execute for those that larger, that how do they get to execute API design and build at scale?
Yeah, I like to try to remind people that APIs are a bit different than a lot of other technologies that you're used to using. They really intersect business, product, and technology. It brings all three disciplines together, and it drives a lot of what we do today. So when we think about that, we have to involve all three disciplines when we're trying to figure those things out, whether it be our immediate tactical needs or our long-term strategy. How does it impact business, the marketplace? How do we apply product thinking to that to deliver that delightful experience? And then how do we leverage our internal technology capabilities, our IT capabilities, to make that happen? And when you start to define API as a first class element in your organization, by tying those three things together, what you're really doing is what's oftentimes termed becoming an API first organization. You're transforming your culture. So where you're not just necessarily seeing technology and business, but you're blending all three together. One of our clients, when you talk about different sizes, one of our clients has 10,000 developers, about 2,500 engineering teams, and has produced 6,000 APIs over the last decade. They're a bank. They are pretty prevalent here in North America, and they have taken that kind of approach in their journey. So they started from zero. I mean, they had other kinds of organization implementations and integrations and things, but they started their journey from zero, and they got there, and they just did it step by step by thinking about blending those three aspects together. Another one of our clients is approximately 100 developers, and they produce less than 50 APIs. They're in those earlier stages of that API first journey where they're taking that on. But there's really three key steps, no matter what size you are and where you're at in your journey, three key steps that I recommend organizations take as they're making that shift from just purely consuming APIs to now starting to design and deliver them and manage them. And first, that's to formalize your API practices. So look at the people, the processes, and the tools that are going to drive your business and your developer enablement. So looking at all that holistically, how are we going to do that? And what we've done before is work with organizations to kind of assess where they're at, identify the opportunities, start to roadmap those out, and just to build that out little by little, and taking that journey, which sometimes takes, up to 24 months to really transform the organization. Sometimes we can get that done in 6 months because of the things that we've done and the insights that we have. And then the second is to recognize that we can no longer design APIs in isolation by developers. So as I mentioned, business, product, and technology. We can't just push APIs off to the IT team and say, that's a technical concern, because they represent our organization. They are those digital front doors. And so we have to shift ourselves from that traditional IT methodology and mindset to a digital product mindset. How do we deliver APIs that leverage product thinking and an outside-in approach? And we're thinking about the marketplace and how APIs are going to empower that. And we can do that through training and equipping people. So I'm really happy to partner with OpenFinity with our courses and offer them at a discount to members so that you can gain those skills that you need to equip your workforce to start thinking in terms of a digital product mindset, in terms of how to design APIs from the outside in, how to involve and collaborate across those different roles. And then finally, you have to scale your efforts. So once you start to get those things in place, you're going to have lots of teams. You might start with 1 or 2 teams doing this, and then eventually the rest of your team start to to deliver APIs as well. So incorporating coaching and federated governance and other kinds of aspects. And it's a journey that it takes a little while to get to. Don't expect to do it all at once if you're smaller or if you're just starting out. But if you start focusing on those in turn and start prioritizing your efforts, you'll start to see that traction and that tipping point where now we're not designing APIs, but we're consuming our APIs and our third-party APIs first, and then we're just building when necessary, all along being informed by the standards of the industry and the interoperability that we're trying to see.
I think that's a really key thing, especially, if you're a small to medium, bank that doesn't have, doesn't have the endless resources. It is really about, hey, what can we consume first? What third-party APIs can we be API first? Think about the experience we want to have, consume external APIs, and only build the APIs that we need that become differentiating. I really want to thank you, Mike and James, for coming today and showing your expertise. We partner with, OpenFinity, Laurent and I, we partner with James and Mike because they are experts in the industry, and we are curating, courses. We have a few courses available, 3 courses from James available. Be looking out for one from Mike here this fall. We'll be delivering more and more courses. Again, it is up to you, the community, to tell us what you need. We're not a vendor trying to push out anything. If you need a course, tell us what you need. Help, like Derek says, help us build the course, show your expertise, and help build your career as well. So thank you so much, Mike and James, for joining us today. If you want to talk to them, they'll be available on. They're a member of the community.
That's right.
They're in the Slack and ready to answer and field your questions and share ideas. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you very much to both of you, and I'm looking forward to talking to you and everyone else on the Slack channel. Thanks.
Thank
Likewise.
you.
Thank you.
And, Mike. It was an honor to have you on this event today. So, Laura, time to wrap up.
Yes, time to wrap up. I'm so excited it's here. I'm ready to go and start. I can see the Slack channel talking, and we've already have about 30, 40 members already in there. So we're just looking, can't wait to, as Derek said, hopefully have that success. Our success depends on you, the community. So let's build the financial services of the future together.
And we have some very interesting event that are already planned, webinar, educational one about on June 6th for the anatomy of an open banking platform. If you're a bank and you're looking to acquire technology today, then that webinar will help you to identify the key component, the key building blocks you need to look for. And I think there is one coming up also on July 11th, Laura.
Yes, on July 11th, we'll have Mark Boyd, who is a data governance expert, which obviously data is extremely important in open finance, how to help you govern that, curate and govern that data. So that will be an excellent webinar for you, an event to attend. So hope to see you all there.
All right. Well, time to close. Laura, thank you for being my co-founder and my partner. It's a lot of fun of working with you. It was, I think, a great event. Speaking with all these great leaders, and hopefully we can see a lot of you in the Slack channel. Join the community. There is a free membership, and let's grow this community so that we can help each other to take advantage of this formidable opportunity that is open banking and the upcoming regulation in October.
Thank you so much, Laurent. It's been wonderful, and I look forward to many years of working in OpenFinity for OpenFinity.
Absolutely.
Thanks. Bye-bye.